Hello, everybody. And today, well, we have an incredible person with us today, and his name is Ethan Tan. Ethan is very special to us. And funnily enough, we've just had a coaching session with him, and we just come off the back of that coaching session. And towards the end of the session, we were sharing with Ethan how special he is to us and to the world. Ethan, your journey since we've known you, which I think it's been at least 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been over that, actually, 2.5 years. Our journey since we've known you, or your journey since we've known you, has just been, the word that comes to me is immense. What you have brought to the table in our conversations, your commitment to how you want things to be, you want your life to be, and the work you're willing to put into that, it's unmatched. And we have so much love for you as a human, and as a man, and as a father and a husband, and as a coach, for what you bring and who you are. So I'm not going to say much more. I'm going to hand it over to Ethan to introduce himself in the way that he wants you to hear about him. And I'll let you do the talking, Ethan. So why don't you just introduce yourself to the listeners, who you are?
It's great to be here. Firstly, I want to say, Sam and Lisa, you two have been part of, you've been the spine of this chapter of my life, I would say. And I really appreciate you two. I appreciate that you followed whatever voice was inside you to create your school. And even before that, when I reached out for advice, you gave me that space. You nurtured the seed that I had in my mind. And yeah, so you really played that role in helping me create my life today. Thank you. And as for me, I guess I used to think I was nobody. I used to think I didn't matter. And then I had this story for a long time. And I was trying to fix myself for a long time. It's not that I had a bad life, I still was happy with my family and so forth. It just felt like there was more, but maybe I had drawn the short straw in some way in life. But I felt like I had something to offer, and I kind of followed that feeling, looked for things, looked for ways to lift myself up. And I guess at some point, I started to see that I was able to do that. Like somehow, I had that desire to lift other people up, and somehow I was able to do that in little ways, just sharing things that I had learned. And so about 2.5 years ago, I moved into coaching, and well, I decided to move into coaching, and not long after that, I came across you, Sam, and then it's been a journey since then of self-discovery and discovering what was true about myself versus what I had made up, and then discovering that I could also discovering that I had a power in life that I didn't know that I had, power to create my own life in a certain way, not a certain way, but more to create more intentionally and more in alignment with who I really was versus how I was creating myself. in the past. And it's like, yeah, so I'm just somebody on that journey, loving it. And other people seem to resonate with that as well. Like when they feel that same desire to free themselves, to experience more of who they are and to live life fully, then along the way we connect, and I work with them to do that. And that's what I'm doing now. And that's what I see that I'll be doing in some form for the rest of my life. Yeah.
One of the things that I love so much about you, Ethan, is that you have this real poetry to your language and to your work. And I want to share just some of the conversations that we have and some of the things that I hear you say around, you recently commented on like how you were feeling about yourself now. And the language that you were using was, I'm more in loving with myself. I'm more at home with myself than ever before. And am I allowed to share? You said something about how you want it to be now, like what you see as possible for you now and going forward. Am I allowed to share that?
Yeah, you can share anything.
Thank you. You said, I want to be a transparent channel for what my heart wants to express. This is not the kind of language we usually come across from a coach who's been in the field 2.5 years. So there's something that's telling me like, you might have decided you wanted to be a coach 2.5 years ago, but there's something like you weren't starting from ground zero. There is something already in your way of being and your presence and your listening that had you come into the profession already elevated. And so I want to share that with you and what I see when I communicate with you and I'm being with you. But can you share a little bit, Ethan, around either of those two things? Like I feel more at home in myself than ever before, and the journey to how you got there, and this, what you see as possible for yourself now. I want to be a transparent channel for what my heart wants to express.
Yeah. Well, let me minimize my email, which just popped up for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the benefits of having a painful story is that, it's a motivation to do some digging and to look around for a solution. So I guess I've been doing that for many years. And when I say being at home with myself, it's I guess that story, when you kind of look at it, it's a story of not accepting me. It's a story of saying there's something wrong. So therefore, I couldn't be at home much of the time, because that story would trigger around people, and then it would be like I would feel at home when I'm surrounded by my family, who I felt safe with. So that story wasn't running there. But the moment there were other people, that story would run, and then I couldn't be at home because home wasn't safe. And so loving myself, being at home, it's the same thing. It's just being able to see what's actually there versus what I thought was there. Because that's all it is. The story that I wasn't at home was the only reason I thought I wasn't at home. Just I guess that's, like if as a coach, coaches may have heard of like grounding and grounding versus skill and so forth. So I think maybe that's relevant to this. Like what you're talking about is coaching skill is something, we pick up along the way, and that's to do with our listening and to do with our understanding of coaching. And so I've picked that up over time. And then grounding, I guess I had more of that coming in to the profession because I was studying things like non-duality and the nature of our minds, and I think the most powerful coaches always have both of them, because it's, there's an element of coaching where it's almost like it's like an invitation to the other person to kind of step into the same space. But in order to do that, you have to be in that space first. And that's when you are at home in yourself, you so much of what's important in coaching is already there. Like your listening is already there. That loving space is already there. The connection with the other person is already there. It's almost it's almost too good to be true in many ways. When you're like, wow, okay, so I show up as me. I show up as who I really know I am. And it's like, wow, more than half the work is done.
You make it sound so simple, Ethan. I love the simplicity of it was just my story was in the way. That's really all it was. It was just that the story was in the way. And I know that there's been a lot of work go into having that story get out of the way. So I love the simplicity that you're sharing, and I love your willingness to be with your story and experience it differently.
Ethan, I'd love for you to share a bit more about how this grounding has impacted your business, because especially in the time of the school, but before that, you have to quote me if I'm wrong, you were making sort of a couple of grand to 4,000, I think it was originally, a month in your business. And now, having gone through the last month, you've earned 3 or 4 times that. And the money is one thing, like that's the byproduct. But like Lisa said, we've really seen the commitment to the work that you've done from then until now that's made that possible. Can you share a bit more about how that grounding and how that exploration of you being at home has created the results, created the money, created the clients, created the impact? Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah. So like there's practical things that go into building the coaching business, like connecting with people, having those conversations, inviting them into a paid relationship. And just by reading a book, you can a book like The Prosperous Coach, you can get the actions. But then all our stories, or at least all my stories, will start getting in the way. Like, okay, connect to people. Like, who? Why would they want to talk to me? And what do I say? Right. So immediately there's resistance in the way of who am I to offer them something? Like, I'm just getting started. What do I have to offer? So all that starts getting in the way. And the grounding, now, as I start to see through the stories, then I'm clearing away those barriers, and then I can reach out to somebody. So that's, that at a very practical level, it's just like, oh, the actions that I'm willing to take, the things that I'm willing to get wrong, that starts to change. So I start to take more actions. But then that's just one part of it. Then the other part of it is, what's the energy behind the action? Right. So I can connect with somebody in a very needy way. I can connect with somebody in a very half-hearted, like, okay, please don't say yes, kind of way, because I don't know if I can deliver in the conversation. The energy can be all about me, and what's wrong with me, or even what's right with me. Like, okay, what's my value? And all of that goes into what the other person receives and what the other person feels. And so two people taking the same actions are going to get very different results based on their grounding, based on the energy behind that. The words themselves will be different. And then the resonance with the other person will also depend on the grounding. Whatever the other person hears in my communication will determine whether they want to speak to me. So then, okay, let's say then we get into a conversation. Then my grounding helps me see past their stories, see who they really are and what they're really capable of. It helps me connect with them at a soul level. So I don't need 3 hours to get to know this person, to know their life story and so on, before I connect to them. So all that stuff on top, which we don't disregard it, but that's just the stuff on top. Whereas the grounding is about what's true at the core. That's the foundation for everything else. And then in the the power of that connection with somebody else, like if you've ever experienced that, and you probably would have experienced that with somebody, I'm just speaking whoever's listening, like you might have experienced that, with your kids, with somebody you really love, your spouse, your parents, your best friend, your pet. When you feel that real connection with somebody and there's nothing in the way, it's hard, you can't put words to it. And that's the thing where when you're grounded and you connect with somebody at that level, even though they've never met you before, they feel something inside. I'm like, huh, I don't know what that was, but like I feel like I'd like to speak again. It's like something inside that's covered in dust that's just been, prodded or nudged a little bit. And so you're speaking to them at that level. And this, because they're alive, that part of them wants to be acknowledged, and it wants to be recognized. So yeah, that grounding helps create that connection. So it's kind of the it's the core of everything, I guess.
Grounding pretty good then.
Yeah, you could say.
There's an example comes to mind. I don't know if you want to share it, Ethan. I'll leave with you how much you share, but you shared with us that in your grounding and in your willingness to say your truth in a conversation and to be really direct with somebody, your client saw something completely different. They came in with one idea and they saw something completely different. And I know through watching your journey that it hasn't always been the easiest thing for you to be really direct with someone and to say what's really on your mind. And you're now seeing, I think, the real transformative power of saying what's really on your mind. So I don't know if you want to share that story. That's up to you. I'd love for you to share a little bit about, like, what has it taken for you to be able to be direct and in your loving with someone, to stay grounded but still speak that truth?
Yeah, I think, like Lisa, what you said was it sounds simple. I don't want to make it sound easy though. It's simple because truth is simple, and it the truth is not just, it's profound and simple. But it's like we have this at some level we know what's true. Almost, it seems like we have a knowing of what's true and what feels right. And then that's covered up with layers and layers and layers of story, and so the work that I had to do was to question, to be with the story first, because usually the story is so scary that I would just run. So the work is to be with that story of, well, I'm useless, for example. Be with that story and not run a mile. And then by working at it in different ways, working with a coach, reflecting on it myself, see through it, I give it what it needs, give it the healing that it needs, and finally allow that energy to be transformed. It's like the energy can't be destroyed, it cannot be transformed. So that layer of story was an energy that had been transformed into something that was trying to protect me. In truth, it wasn't needed. So doing that work with that story would help transform it back into what it was, which was just the energy of just pure potential, pure life. And doing that bit by bit, you get the benefit immediately. That's the amazing thing about this work. It's like, it's not like you have to smash through all the layers to get there. Like every bit of work that I've done has helped me in that moment. It's helped me to be freer, to be more relaxed, to be happier, to be more connected bit by bit. And so that I will still have layers that I'm working on now, right? We just had a session about that. And, but it's, so that directness comes from that, from removing the stuff that's in the way. Okay, because our heart already knows, it wants to express something, and then so we don't have to make that up. It's more that we have to get the stuff out of the way to allow that.
I love, again, Ethan, what I shared about poetry. I mean, I'm hearing more of it as the more you share. It's just so beautiful, that transformation of energy. I just love that idea. And what was I going to say then? There's something that we're seeing in you around what this really allows you to do. And so a lot of our school is, our compass point, as you know, is on service, and that's at the heart of everything that we do. And I'm seeing a correlation between the more grounded you are in yourself, the more loving you are with yourself, the more transparent your stories become, the more your focus point really shifts into anything that comes out of my mouth is in service to this person. And it's come so far away from any kind of strategy that might have been present before around building a business, creating a client, and it literally just comes from this different place inside of you now. And that, I think, has contributed to the freedom that you're finding to speak your truth. It's like, you had a question for us a while ago around how do I invite someone into a life of possibility? Like, how do I leave them with that feeling of what's possible for them? And I don't know if we've ever really answered that directly, but it's occurring inside of you. And that the example that you shared with us, which I won't say, but in our session just now, like that ability to be direct with someone, that ability to invite them into whatever story they're running is not true. That ability to say something that bold to someone, to wake them up, it's like there was no dust left on that person. It's like they were awake, something had been shook. And it wasn't, you weren't coming from this place of, I'm going to say this to get them to work with me. You were coming from this place of, I see something that is possible, and I'm going to do anything that I can think to do to have this person see what is possible for themselves. And I just love everything about that in you, Ethan, and the work that has gone in to you creating yourself so that you can now offer that to others. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, that question of, okay, how do I help others see possibility? If we, if I direct it inwards, I can see that this is about my work, because you can give me a strategy of how to see possibility, but if I don't really see it, it's not going to have any power to it. So really the work is the moment I really see the possibility in myself, I will also see it in others. And then that will just come out as I clear the stuff out of the way. So what you were referring to was, in this case, somebody I was speaking to was saying that, like that, I gave them a range for the coaching and they said, well, that's completely outside my budget. And because I just saw so clearly what was possible for them, I said, well, that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be outside your budget, given who you are, given who you want to be, given your potential. this should not be outside your budget. And they were just completely taken aback. But like you said, it woke them up just because they knew it was true. When they heard that, they knew that person knew it was true. And he went off that evening and made some changes and like recalibrated everything that he was aiming for. And so that's just, it really does come back to the work that we do for ourselves.
One of the things, Ethan, that strikes me about you, and we had a similar, we touched on it with somebody else in a recent conversation. I love what you're sharing, about grounding and the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making. One of the things that stands out about you is your devotion and your commitment to things being different, your commitment to serving your clients more deeply, more impactfully, your commitment to growing your bank balance, your commitment to being a different father and showing up differently with your partner. There is a commitment in you, and I'd love for you to share a bit more about that commitment, because it like you said, it's really easy to sit here, isn't it, and say, well, I was here and now I'm here. Yay, brilliant. And it's phenomenal, but we don't want to miss what's gone on in the middle, because you have not lacked commitment.
I think, I guess, it's like when you're, like we went to, what do you call that? Jurassic Coast, right? With my kids, and we were looking for fossils and so on. So it's kind of like when you uncover a bit of, like, what is this? It's like a horn of something. And then why wouldn't you continue, right? You'd be like, whoa, what else is there? So once I had a taste of what was possible, and I start to see that there's more there beyond the story, it's like, well, of course I'm gonna keep looking, because this is amazing. So sometimes commitment can sound like hard work, but for me it's like why wouldn't I? This is amazing, because we have we're here in this life, and then we've been given this this infinite playground, really, to go explore and discover ourselves. And as we do that, life becomes richer, more becomes possible. So I think it's just kind of the recognition, for me, it's the recognition of what's possible, and what's available as I keep looking.
Love that so much. It's something, as you know, Ethan, it's something we talk a lot about in the school, that everything being an opportunity, everything is for us, not against us. And I'm really hearing that in what you're sharing. Like, if I see this experience as an opportunity to see things differently, what's then possible? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah. What's possible is not just for me, what's possible for me, and then my family, my kids, my wife, the people I work with.
I think that's a really cool invitation for someone, Ethan, an infinite playground of self-discovery.
Yeah. And there's a tipping point at some point. You know, a lot of people like, well, I don't want to find out anything more about myself.
I'm done playing.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, and some people are like, oh God, I don't like what I see there. So I don't even want to. But that's because you're just seeing the dirt at that moment. You're not seeing what's under the dirt. So I would encourage you, if you're there, like just give it a chance. And the moment you get your first glimpse of the gold that's underneath there, to change the metaphor, then then you make your decision then. Don't make your decision when you're just seeing dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it comes back to what you were saying in the beginning around your relationship with yourself, and that you're more in loving with yourself. Because I can just see you go out onto the playground and you're not enjoying playtime because there's a bully. And it's like, when we start to look, it's like, oh, I'm kind of the bully. Like, I'm bullying myself here. I'm beating myself up. I'm giving myself a hard time for it not going to plan, or not getting it right, or not being where I should be. I should be able to do 10 hopscotches instead of 3, like, I'm the bully. So I'm never going to enjoy playtime if I think that there's a bully there.
Yes. Yeah. And part of the play is, if I start to see that in an infinite playground, it doesn't matter where I'm at. Like, there's no score. There's no score that makes sense in infinity, compared to infinity. So it's, yeah, we're not up against anything. So it's just an opportunity.
What a beautiful note to end on. Opportunity and invitation.
Yeah.
Is there any final words, Ethan, that you would want to share? How do people get hold of you if they want to work with you, if they want to know more?
Well, my website is exponentially.io, or they can message me on Facebook or LinkedIn. Always happy to connect with somebody who's interested in this exploration. Final words, I guess. Just what I've realized for myself is more is possible than I imagined. I guess I would like to tell that to myself. Yeah, I just thought there were certain limits, certain things that I could offer, and that was that. And it's just not true. So I would invite somebody to consider what they really want. Like, if they forget what they think they can get, and they think about what they really want for themselves, the kind of life they want, the feeling that they want in their life, the relationships, and the kind of contribution that they want to make, whatever wants to be expressed in their heart, I would invite them to just listen to it and know that if it's being asked for, it's possible.
Ethan, thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.